My name is Jennifer White, and the day my husband tried to erase me, I let him. Or at least, that's what he thought. The courtroom was cold enough to feel like punishment. Marble floors, chrome chairs, a wall of glass that made downtown Austin look like a postcard. Somewhere behind me, cameras clicked. Reporters whispered my name like it was a scandal instead of a warning. Across the table, Grant sat with his shoulders loose, that easy billionaire posture he practiced more than his wedding vows. The navy suit, the perfect tie, the same platinum watch he always used like a weapon to tell time and power in the same glance. He leaned toward me, just close enough for me to smell the cologne I knew he never wore at home. "You're done," he murmured, voice warm enough that the judge couldn't call it hostile. "You'll walk out of here with nothing. You'll never touch my money again." He spoke like it was a reassurance. Like I should be grateful he'd even bothered to warn me. On his right, his attorney shuffled papers with a bored confidence. On his left, his mother Lydia sat rigid, designer scarf wrapped like armor, lips pressed thin. Just behind them, Claire, his assistant, the woman he thought I was too stupid to be suspicious of, crossed her legs and watched me like a movie she'd already seen. They were all waiting for the same thing. For me to crack, to beg. I didn't. My hands stayed still on the table, fingers laced, nails short, no jewelry. I looked like every stereotype they'd built around me. The useless stay-at-home wife who'd never balanced more than a grocery list. That image had kept me safe longer than any lock. What they didn't see was what I'd already done. Under the legal pad in front of me was a slim black USB drive, sealed in a clear evidence envelope. Its label was simple, typed in neat black letters: Unita Status V. Gerant Motiit EDAL. Recording Exhibits 132. For a second, when I glanced up, I caught the judge's eyes. Eleanor Green, federal judge on loan to family court for the day, which by itself should have made Grant nervous. Her gaze held mine a heartbeat longer than necessary. "You ready?" it seemed to ask. I was. I had been ready for months. Because the truth is, my silence hadn't been surrender. It had been surveillance. People used to tell me I had the dream. I was 32 when I met Grant, a marketing professor at UT Austin. I loved my students, my research, my little apartment overlooking the river. My life was noisy and imperfect, but it was mine. Grant was 10 years older, a local legend in real estate and tech. He guest lectured for one of my classes about personal branding and legacy, and stayed after to talk. He told me my questions were sharp. He told me he liked women who could keep up. We married 18 months later. The house he bought us was all glass and water, a 3-story modern mansion perched on a hill above the Colorado River. There was a dock, a chef's kitchen, a wine cellar I pretended to understand. Friends told me I'd won. What I didn't realize was that I'd been upgraded out of my own life. At first, giving up my job felt like a choice. "You don't need to burn yourself out for a state salary," he'd said. Kissed my forehead, and slid a black card into my palm. "You can consult if you miss it, travel, enjoy things." "You enjoy things," I heard, freedom, and missed the word, permission, hiding underneath. The card was in my name, but the bill went straight to him. My paycheck made more sense. Going into our joint account, my savings got folded into the family portfolio. My calendar became full of charity galas, investor dinners, and carefully curated appearances where my role was to smile and say how proud I was. Grant started a foundation, the White Futures Initiative, supposedly to fund affordable housing and community tech hubs. Lydia took over as chair like it was her birthright. She adored the spotlight, the photos with mayors and CEOs, the speeches about giving back. "You have no idea how hard we worked for this," she'd say often, resting a manicured hand on my arm. "Your job is simple. Protect the brand. Protect Grant." Maybe I would have stayed in that glass box forever if the cruelty had stayed subtle. But abusers always get greedy. My last birthday as his obedient wife was the moment the glass cracked. He threw a party at the house. The patio flooded with people I barely knew but was supposed to impress. String lights reflected off the river, a jazz band played songs I hadn't picked. In the middle of it, Lydia called for everyone's attention. "Jennifer," she trilled, holding up a small, gift-wrapped box. "We know how much you love practical things." Inside was a key fob for a used hatchback she'd found a great deal on, and "put in your name so you can feel independent." The room chuckled. I laughed too, because that was my job. 10 minutes later, Grant stopped the music again. "And now," he said, "for the woman who makes my days actually run." He turned to Claire. She stepped forward, cheeks flushed, pretending to be embarrassed. He opened a velvet case and fastened a diamond tennis bracelet around her wrist. The kind of bracelet that cost more than the car Lydia had just given me. "This," he announced, holding up her hand so everyone could see, "is for the person I can't do business without." Everyone clapped. Phones flashed. Lydia dabbed at a fake tear. Behind their smiles, I saw it all lined up too clearly. The hierarchy. The humiliation. When I caught my reflection in the giant glass door, I didn't recognize the woman looking back. Perfect hair. Perfect dress. Eyes empty in a house that wasn't hers. That night, after the guests left and Grant passed out drunk in his office, I stood alone in the dark kitchen with the new car key in my hand. It didn't feel like a gift. It felt like a leash. I put the key down, and for the first time in years, I picked something else up. My curiosity. It started small, an email left open on his laptop, a folder on his printer tray, a ledger Lydia dropped in my lap by accident while she scrolled through photos of herself on her phone. The numbers bothered me before I even understood them. I'd taught analytics, I knew how patterns were supposed to look. These didn't. Millions flowing from the foundation into LLCs with bland names: Redline Horizon, Oakcrest Solutions, Solus Development. Money leaving accounts in Austin and resurfacing in shell companies registered in the Cayman Islands and Cyprus. One night, after he bragged at dinner about a new, affordable housing project, I went into his office under the excuse of looking for a charger. The office had always been his sanctuary. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, 3 monitors, a heavy desk that looked like it had been stolen from a law firm. He'd told me once, half joking, "This is my war room, don't mess with the maps." In the bottom cabinet, under a stack of unrelated contracts, I found a thin blue folder. Uintigare al DMGS of Book. I took out my phone and photographed every page. The bank transfers, the property flips, the signature lines. Grant's name appeared everywhere. So did Lydia's. The affordable housing projects were being used as collateral and then quietly sold to shell corps he controlled, bleeding Grant money and city funds into his private accounts. Neighborhoods that were supposed to be saved on paper were being strangled in reality. He'd taken my expertise, my lectures on ethics, on messaging, on responsible growth, and weaponized them against everything I believed in. That night I didn't cry. I opened my old adjunct email, the one he'd never bothered to update because he assumed I was too out of the game to need it. In the contacts list was a name I hadn't thought about in years. Marlon Pierce. He'd been one of my best grad students. Brilliant, intense, always interested in how financial systems could be manipulated. Last I'd heard, he'd joined the FBI. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. If I send this, I thought, there's no going back. Then I remembered Claire's bracelet, Lydia's smirk, Grant's toast about the women who keep me winning. I sent a single line. "Marlon, it's Jennifer White. I think my husband is running a fraud through his foundation. I have proof. Do you still hunt people like him?" The reply came less than an hour later. "Professor White, I do. Don't send anything else by email. Can you meet in person?" The FBI field office did not look like the movies. It was beige, fluorescent lights, old coffee, ugly carpet, a metal detector at the entrance that buzzed half-heartedly as people walked through. Marlon met me in a windowless conference room with a table that had been carved on by board agents. He was older, broader in the shoulders, suit slightly rumpled. Same sharp eyes. "You look different," he said. "Richer? Unhappier?" "I look like my husband's brand," I replied. He listened as I laid it out. The photos, the strange transfers, the foundation's public filings that didn't line up with the private ledgers, Lydia's dual signatures approving both charity work and secret LLCs. When I finished, he sat back, exhaled slowly, and rubbed his jaw. This isn't just a divorce issue, he said. This is federal. Wire fraud, tax fraud, potentially money laundering on a scale we haven't touched yet. My stomach churned. Are you saying if I stay, I'm part of it? I'm saying, he answered carefully, that right now, there's a clean line between you and the crimes. The more you know and don't act, the fuzzier that line gets. He slid a card across the table. Assistant U.S. Attorney Sarah Chen joined us 20 minutes later. Compact, composed, dark hair in a low bun, expression that said she'd seen every kind of lie and was bored of all of them. We don't open cases like this on suspicion, she said. We open them on evidence. You've given us enough to start a file, not enough to indict. Yet! What do you need? I asked. Confirmation, she replied. Real-time conversations. Internal documents tied to your husband's voice and decisions. Transfers we can match across jurisdictions. Marlon placed a small black object on the table. At first I thought it was a pen. It wasn't. This is a stylus, he said. It records audio. You say you still go to meetings, charity events, private dinners. Wes. Then you can carry this without raising suspicion. He paused. Jennifer, if you agree to cooperate, we can put in writing that you'll have immunity for anything that's already happened. But you have to understand something. Sarah leaned forward. If he finds out, he won't just try to destroy you financially. He might try to destroy your credibility, your safety, your relationship with your son. We can't live in your house. You'd be alone with him, playing a role, for months. I thought of Ethan, our 16-year-old, who still believed his father walked on water. I thought of the mortgage statements with my name on them. Of the charities I'd helped pitch at Gallus, smiling for cameras, while the money slipped into black holes. I thought of the woman in the glass door, who didn't recognize herself. If I don't do this, I said, I'm already destroyed. Just slower. Sarah pushed the cooperating witness agreement toward me. Then sign, she said quietly, and don't tell anyone who you are from this moment on. Not fully. Not until it's over. The pen scratched as I signed my name, Jennifer White. For the first time, it felt like a weapon instead of a label. The performance started that night. When I walked into the house, Grant was standing in the kitchen with a tumbler of something expensive in his hand. He kissed my cheek like nothing in our world had shifted 6 inches to the left. How was your little alumni thing? He asked. Get nostalgic. It was nice, I said, hanging up my coat slowly so I could slide the recording stylus into my bag without him seeing. They asked how you were. He smirked. Tell them I'm rich and getting richer. That's all anyone cares about. He poured himself another drink. Oh, and I talked to Lydia. She's worried about you. Says you've been distant. Maybe you're not cut out for this level of pressure, he said. Pressure. The way some men say. Punishment. I smiled like it bounced off me instead of sinking in. Maybe I'm just tired. Then I watched his face as he swallowed. The small tick near his left eye. The way he wouldn't quite meet my gaze. He was hiding something bigger. Good, I thought. So was I. The next 8 weeks were the longest of my life. Every Thursday I forgot my water bottle at yoga and swung by a specific coffee shop instead. I'd order a plain black coffee. The barista would hand me a bottle of sparkling water. On the house. Inside the shrink-wrapped cap was a tiny micro SD card. I'd slip in the one from my stylus, walk out with a different bottle, and by the time I got home, my recordings would already be uploaded to a server I never saw. In the meantime, I played my role. At dinners, I laughed at Grant's jokes while he boasted to investors about leveraging public funds, without saying how. In boardrooms, I complimented Lydia's speeches and passed her the stylus to sign with when she approved fake budgets. At charity galas, I stood beside Claire while she briefed him on moving funds offshore before the audit window closes. Every word went into the stylus. In bed at night, Grant would curl around me like he loved me, and I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering if the man breathing against my neck would strangle me with one wrong move. Sometimes fear came in physical waves. Sweaty palms, racing heart, vision tunneling. I'd think I can't do this, I'll slip. He'll see. Then I'd remember the tenants whose apartments had mysteriously burned out just before redevelopment, the community center that never got built, the donors clapping at Gallus for projects that only existed on screen. This isn't just about you, I'd tell myself. Play your part. Grant wasn't stupid. By week 5, he'd changed all the household passwords. For security reasons. Staff who'd been with us for years suddenly found new jobs. He put cameras at the front gate and the boat dock, motion activated, for our safety. One morning, I found his watch on the dresser. He never left it anywhere. When I picked it up, a tiny light glowed red on the side. Recording. He didn't trust me either. Fine. Let him listen to what I wanted him to hear. I started muttering to myself in the kitchen about feeling depressed. About how maybe I'd made my life too small. How I might call my sister, the one he hated, or maybe see a therapist and talk about the pressure of being married to a man like Grant. Within 48 hours, a new therapist's card appeared on the counter. His therapist. Recommended. Controlled. I never called. But I let him think I did. The mistake that sealed his fate didn't come from him. It came from Claire. She emailed me by accident. Or maybe the universe was tired of being subtle. Subi JCJ. IT car ver PRJET FNDS. The body was short, numbers moved. Came inside secure. City invoice uploaded. Need your sign off on the last transfer. I stared at the line, J. White, until my vision blurred. She hadn't meant me. She'd meant Jordan White. Grant's younger brother, the black sheep, who handled the grittier side of their empire. Attached was a spreadsheet. Every illegally diverted dollar from a city redevelopment grant meant to build shelters for women and children. The shelters were fake. The money wasn't. I forwarded it to the secure address Marlon had given me, my hands shaking too hard to type a message. He replied within minutes. This is your smoking gun. Do now confront them. Keep acting normal. We're moving. That afternoon, Lydia came by unannounced. She wore pearls the size of grapes and a cream suit that probably cost more than my entire pre-marriage wardrobe. She looked around my kitchen like she was inspecting a stage. Jennifer, she said, voice syrupy, people are talking. About the divorce. About lawyers. That's not how our family handles things. Our family, I asked, leaning against the counter. When did it become ours? She ignored that. Reached into her bag, pulled out a document. A post-nup, she said. Just to make you feel secure. You sign, you get a generous settlement, we keep everything private. No courts. No reporters. No ugly stories. Her eyes sharpened. You don't want ugly stories out there about you, do you? About how you've been unstable. The way she said, unstable, told me everything. Grant had already started building his defense. I picked up the pen she offered, not my stylus, just a regular pen, and twirled it between my fingers, pretending to think. Then I set it down without signing. Lydia, I said softly, I'm not the unstable one, I'm just the quiet one. People always confuse those. For the first time since I'd known her, she lost her composure. Her mouth twitched. If you open your mouth about our business, she hissed, I will make sure you regret it. I will bury you, do you understand? The Whites protect what's ours. I didn't bother to pretend to be scared. I reached for my phone, tapped the stylus lying innocently by the fruit bowl, and smiled. Thank you, I said, for being honest. She left in a storm of perfume and indignation. I sent the recording to Marlon that night. Which brings us back to the courtroom. Mrs. White has not held a full-time job in over a decade. Grant's attorney was saying now, a smooth baritone built for juries and morning shows. She has no independent assets, no significant contribution to Mr. White's enterprises, financial or otherwise. This claim to half his estate is nothing more than an attempt to cash in on his success. The words were designed to sting. They didn't. Because while he talked, Sarah Chen walked quietly through the back doors and took a seat at the prosecution table that technically wasn't supposed to exist in family court. My attorney, Mr. Howell, gray hair, cheap suit, eyes like a wolf, rose when opposing counsel finished. Your Honor, he said, before we continue, my client has submitted a sealed supplemental packet for the court's review. It is accompanied by a letter from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Texas. The room shifted. A ripple of confusion. Judge Green held out her hand. The clerk carried the envelope, my envelope, up to the bench. For 20 seconds, the only sound was the soft sliding of paper. Then, clearly, rings on wood as Judge Green's hand stilled. Her expression changed, not dramatically, just enough. Grant's shoulders tightened. Lydia leaned forward, knuckles white around the handle of her Hermes bag. Claire's perfectly glossed lips parted. Judge Green looked up, her gaze moving slowly from the pages to me, then to Grant. "Miss Eckert, White," she said, voice measured. "Hear you aware that your wife has been a cooperating witness in an ongoing federal investigation into your business and foundation accounts for the last 2.5 months." The color drained from his face so fast, I wondered if he'd faint. "What?" he snapped, standing halfway. "That's ridiculous. Jennifer, what did you—" The doors at the back opened again. This time it wasn't reporters. It was federal agents. They moved with calm efficiency, badges out, suits plain. One approached the bench with a thick folder. Another stood behind Grant, just out of arm's reach. "Your Honor," the lead agent said, "we have signed indictments for Grant White, Lydia White, and others on charges including wire fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy, and embezzlement."